Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Dissenter. I'm your host, as always, Ricardo Lopes, and today I'm here with Olivia Bentley. She's a porn star, an escort, a fitness influencer, a sex therapist, and she also has a master's degree in education. So today we're going to talk basically about her life as a sex worker and some of the ideas she has about sex work and what she thinks about some of the assumptions people make about sex workers. So, Olivia, welcome to the show. It's a huge pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Likewise, Ricardo. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so tell us first, to start off with, tell us a little bit about your background. How you got into sex work, the kind of sex work you do, even though I've already spoiled a little bit of that in the introduction, and your work as a sex therapist.
Sure. Well, certainly I didn't like wake up, I didn't wake up as a child and think that I was going to be here. Life happened, if we want to be realistic about life. But I was getting a divorce from my ex, and my son was very young, and my ex he's an alcoholic. And sadly, we are both like the same age, and he's on kidney dialysis right now, just to give you an idea of where we went in terms of growth. And so he wasn't growing, and I was trying my damnedest to get him to clean up and be a father. And I was a stay-at-home, and I was actually getting my doctorates in jurisprudence. I was going to become a lawyer. And so very interesting, because since then I've met so many of them as clients, and they're like, "Oh, please don't. You're better off where you're at." So I'm like, they're all working 60-hour weeks, and they have health problems, and they're like, "Girl, you make just as much money as me. Stay where you're at." So, so I kind of was at this point where I stayed too long, and it wasn't good for my son. So I decided I'm going to just make a move, and I'm going to boldly go out there and try to do my own thing. And so I went to the sex industry thinking it would just be short term, and I'll continue to get my degree and move on in whatever I decide to do. And that's how it happened. I stayed for quite a while, and I've done different things, but we tend, like, there's an old saying in the industry, "Oh, she'll be back." A girl gets mad, says, "I'm out of here." And the girls will kind of giggle and say, "She'll be back. Give it a month. She'll go out there in the real world and find out how good she's got it in some ways comparatively." But that's all, up to the eye of the beholder of what they like and they prefer in their day-to-day, and who they want to work with and what they want to deal with. But we don't always have it so bad. It's kind of interesting, the perceptions people have.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And let me just ask you this, because I'm really curious. Before you got into sex work and the porn industry, did you have any role models? Were there, for example, any female porn stars or other kinds of sex workers who you looked up to and thought, "Oh, I would really like to be like her"? Did you have any influences or not at all?
My ex-husband and I enjoyed watching porn together. I thought, who I thought was really, really hot and cool at the time? What is her name? Gosh, she's a millionaire, but then she got on drugs. Jenna Jameson. Do you know who that is?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So when she started and she didn't lose all that weight and whatever she's done with the drugs, and I feel really bad for her, because at the time when we were watching her, she was like at the top of her game. She decided to become her own owner. She wasn't going to allow these producers to kind of live off of her skin per se. And she started her own production company and made millions on her own. And I thought it was that business intelligence about her that I found attractive at the time. And I thought, well, that's inspiring. A woman that's going to start running the show for herself and make her own money for herself and not get exploited in that. We're choosing to exploit ourselves, but we should be getting the majority of the fruit of our labor for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, actually, before I asked you the question, I was imagining that you would be saying someone or mentioning the name of someone like a Kendra Lust or someone like that, just because she's also very much into fitness. So, but I mean, that was just the name that came to mind. So,
To tell you the truth, I'm not even sure I've heard of Kendra Lust, but I have to be totally honest with you. This has not been a lifestyle choice for me. This has been a career choice. Okay. So although I've enjoyed watching some porn and I'll get off to it here and there, I really don't even know who's who. And I really don't give a shit. but I mean, they're all hot and they're all great. And probably today I'd work with anybody, but you know, I just really pay attention to who's who in the world. And yet here I am in it, and I making a name for myself despite.
Yeah, sure. So, and a bit about sex therapy. I mean, tell us about that. What kind of work do you do there?
Well, just, you know, as an escort, as a companion, as a professional, it's kind of like high-end luxury. It's a high-end luxury service where you can come in and relax, get your physical needs met, but some people want to talk. And so over the years, I mean, I'm just there to be like your best friend, like, you know, whatever you want me to be for that hour or 2 days, your wife, your girlfriend, your bestie. You get to lay it all out on the line and be yourself and open up in the bedroom in ways that other people don't know you like that, right? And so it's pretty cool. And so what will happen is it'll open Pandora's box and people will get very comfortable expressing things to me. And so over the years, like, for example, I would have soldiers from Iraq. They were in the Iraq war. For a while, they were coming in and seeing me, and such messed up stories. And these wonderful men that put their lives on the line, that went out and sacrificed for us. And now they're coming back with some mental issues. And they're describing, well, suddenly something triggered me, and suddenly I was in my car and then I got pulled over. I don't even remember what happened, but it was some kind of post-trauma circumstance. And then they end up in jail. So that kind of stuff really upset me, and letting them just open up and lay it all out, even, you know, that maybe they'll cry or what have you. I've even had somebody give me a Purple Heart. You know, that's how much I meant to them, just getting to come and see me on the regular and open up. And that's why I decided to give people in law enforcement and military 25% off. I have a 25% anytime discount that I've had for years that I'm known for, due to stuff like that. So when people come in and open up like that, and then they leave really relieved, you know, it's like, my God, it's like I just had this awesome therapy session, lady. We got to get it on. You're gorgeous. You took good care of me. You gave me a massage. I felt so comfortable. I got to open up and talk about some things that really make me uncomfortable that I wouldn't really want to talk with anybody else about. Yeah. Then I'll coin the phrase, this was like therapeutic for me. So I have made mention of that. And at one point that mentioning went viral. And so that's why I got the reputation as the sex therapist that some people will laugh at and mock, that's fine. You know, by all means, you know, let's laugh about some stuff too. But there truly is a therapeutic value to seeing somebody and spending quality time and having good intimacy with a woman.
Yeah, and the thing is that people have many assumptions about the kinds of men that pursue sex workers, that, I mean, pay for sex. But I mean, do you have any sort of, let's say, portrait of the typical man that approaches you to pay for sex? I mean, are they just regular men, or, as we sometimes hear from people who are against sex workers, like conservatives and certain kinds of feminists, that men who pursue or men who pay for sex are just losers who can't get a woman, and they are abusers, and accusations like that? No,
it's literally across the board. It is across the board 100%. So it's whatever you're wanting. For me, it's whomever I'm willing to spend time with. And I'm not going to spend time with some piece of crap abuser Sorry. I mean, they'll come to book girls and what have you, but it's really up to the girl what kind of backbone, what is she made out of character-wise, as far as who she's going to take on as a client. And so my guys are extremely normal, and I have married clients too, like couples that they want to partake together. You know, conservatives, a ton of conservatives. I did the Candace Owens Show, and I got a whole slew of conservatives that just feel comfortable meeting me. You know, just the way I articulate, and so I have a lot of conservative clients. A lot of law enforcement and military due to that that discount that I'll hand out. But just everybody from across the board, your mailman, your lawyer, you know, normal, decent people that for whatever reason they're wanting, you know, for them it's a luxury thing, or maybe it's a stress reliever, what have you. And as much as these guys work, they deserve it.
Yeah.
They work. Everybody's working so much. Every time I ask, you know, what do you do? I work. What do you do for fun? I work. Like, I meet a lot of working businessmen. So, and you know, here we are in America. It's America, baby. So, what do you think? What are you doing? We're working.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned the Candace Owens Show, the episode you did there, because, and you mentioned that you have some conservative clients, because, I mean, I listened to that episode, and the entire show, she was trying to paint you as a bad person, as someone who was, I mean, mentally flawed in some weird way, in some weird conservative kind of approach. And I mean, we can get into that a little bit more later, but I mean, that was the kind of take I was getting from her. That was the kind of energy I was getting from her. Did you feel that at all? Or
yeah, it was it was totally preconceived. It was she didn't do that naturally. What she did was, after we met on the Whatever podcast, and I kind of gave her, I was pretty quiet. I just thought the Whatever podcast was a little immature in a way, just the forum. But I gave her a little kickback on some of the stuff that she was saying, because she was just there to kick it up and insult us and get things going, get the controversy going, get the girls mad, get the girls raging, so he would have a good tagline for his bit. And then I called her, or I got a hold of her, I emailed her, and then the producer got a hold of me within 24 hours and said, we will fly you out this week. And I was very surprised to hear back so quick. She at the time was pregnant, and she was just like, due anytime. So it was like, wow. But I was a little intimidated just to fly out a day or two on a dime. So I said, give me till next week. And then, but the whole premise, I said, this is what I want to do. I was in varsity debate. I was going to become a lawyer. And when we were in varsity debate, we debated policies, and she's a debater, right? That's where she got her start with Charlie Kirk, going over to the colleges. So I said, you go get your evidence against prostitution. I'll get my evidence for, and let's have a little mashup. That's not, of course, what they did. They said, can we get your speaker notes the night before? And I'm like, no, you can't have my speaker notes the night before. What she did was she went and had her staff run a background check on me, and she got the wrong woman. And the whole idea was to get a bunch of dirt on me and then slam me once I came in. And so they had done a background check on a woman who has a child who lives in another state. And my son's always been awarded to me. He's always been with me. He's my man. He's always been with me. Like, we're super close. So she starts out in the interview, so you're estranged from your son who lives in another state. That's the first thing.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, oh boy, here we go. She's gonna come up with a bunch of wild stuff. So just get ready. She's gonna come at you. So and I think if I were to do it again, I would have said, hey, I thought based on what I spoke with the producer, we were gonna have an actual debate. I've got my speaker notes here, and maybe held her feet to the fire a little bit more on expectations, because that was a switch and bait. But some of the, I mean, that's how it works sometimes with those interviews. You got to be careful. If you want to, these gotcha folks that are using you for clickbait. So, and I decided to brave it, so I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're definitely going to address some of the accusations she made there, or some of the assumptions she came up with, because they are actually not original at all. I mean, it's actually what we tend to hear in debates with between conservatives and sex workers. It's always the same kind of arguments they use. But do you think that pornography and sex work more generally is for anyone, or do you think that perhaps there are, to be successful as a sex worker and to like being a sex worker, women particularly should have certain kinds of traits?
It's a tough one because, if I hadn't had so many negative experiences with my ex and negative experiences with, even growing up with my watching my dad and my mom, I don't know that I would have gotten in the sex industry. I mean, I really do love the idea of families. I love the idea of families, men and women getting married and having lots of babies. We need them, and having happy families. Now, having said that, even when I was married, my ex and I liked to watch some porn. It was kind of a fun little kink and a kick. A lot of people do it, way more than, that's why it's not getting banned, right? A lot of people tend to dip into it for the artistic value and to get them creatively, get them going, get their juices going. So, I'm in the space, and I just feel like you really need to stick to your guns on running the show on your own terms, and make sure that you do not put up with any crap. Because that's the thing. This industry can chew you up and spit you out. I don't recommend that everybody go get into it. I don't really want teens watching porn. I don't. I want those websites to verify people with their ID and make sure that those adults going on I'm serious. Which is funny because most of my colleagues would say, "What are you talking about? You're going to cut into our bottom line." I care about safety. And I don't want kids getting on the internet, seeing a bunch of porn, and even, because it gets pretty wild out there. It's not all healthy porn. It's not all, again, that's the eye of the beholder, but, but if you are going to go into the industry, go in with your eyes wide open. Do not be your own boss, and run it like a business. Like, run it like a legit business. Get an escort. Make sure you're testing. Make sure you're vetting and screening your clients. You know where they work. You've seen their ID. You know them. If anything were to happen, there's just a lot of safety considerations. So you've got to be a tough customer to be in the industry. Right?
Yeah. And by the way, do you think that online platforms like OnlyFans and other platforms like that give more power to sex workers to have control over their own content that perhaps working for a production company wouldn't?
Yes, it's all a racket game. So let's say you want to be a porn star, and you want to get an award, and you want to have that much recognition that people across the nation are going to recognize you, right?
Yeah.
All you need to do is hire and I was doing it, and then I was like, nah, I don't really want to invest my time in this. You hire a manager, and it's very formulaic, and then they start promoting you. You enter all of the contests, you show up to all the AVNs, you pay in, and eventually you get your award, having paid in and done a lot of you pay a PR company, basically. So that's one way to do it. If you do it that way, you will be taken advantage of, in the sense that they're just going to give you your shoot rate which is however many, thousands of dollars that is. You're going to work for them, and then they're going to take that video and they're going to go make a ton of money off that video. But some people will do that because they're like, yeah, but if I go get famous over this and everybody knows my name, I can still work my OnlyFans with more people coming in or what have you. Some people that they just want to go to OnlyFans and just make their own money. You can market yourself in your own way. That can be successful. OnlyFans was hugely successful for the Instagram stars during COVID. All those Instagram stars ran over to OnlyFans and brought all of their followers and made just a ton of money. I hear the money's not as good, but I mean, it's however much you want to put into it as far as marketing goes, right? Does that kind of give you a...
I think so. I was actually also going to ask you, do you think that if a girl is interested in getting into sex work, whether it is porn or escorting or some other kind of sex work, particularly if it's porn, because your image will be out there, the videos will be out there, do you think that before taking that step, they should consider the possible future consequences of them being exposed on the internet like that? And apart from that, what would you say are perhaps some of the cons of doing pornography and sex work that they should consider before making such a decision?
Yes, and just a real quick note on OnlyFans. Like, I do like that people are able, grown adults are able to go on there and do their thing. There's married couples doing it just for fun, like hobbyists. So, and I do like that they take less money. So all power, power to OnlyFans. I just don't want to see everybody and their dog jumping on it as a means of making a living, because it's just not going to happen. But what was it?
Basically, what considerations should people have before getting into sex work or pornography, more specifically?
Yes. Do consider it, because this is one of these things where porn stars that I know that have done really well have said, you're either in or you're out. You're either all the way in or you're out, because why hover in it to some degree and only make X amount, when if you totally exploit yourself and you're all in, then you're going to make way more money to build up your portfolio, what have you. It depends on you. I'll just give you my thing. I was invited to do an HBO special years ago when I first went to the world famous Bunny Ranch. That's where I started. So I went over there after the divorce and started working with that crew, and they had a huge HBO special going on that was bringing in tons of people. I didn't want to exploit myself and get that much fanfare and be known everywhere and then be pigeoned into the sex industry. I still had I went and got a master's degree. I went and did all sorts of other things. I've came and gone. I've been a teacher. I've done wealth management to prove that I can get out in the real world and really hustle and use my brain and make good money that way too. So I've been able to go and be a famous, notable porn star and sex actress around the world with clients from around the world, yet stay under the radar enough to go become a teacher in the public school system. Think about how I was able to do that. So it depends, because what might you want later on? Is this just a temporary thing? Are you like totally sold that this is what, just be ready? Because since I just started getting more outwardly, I started marketing more outwardly within maybe the last 5 years, and I finally got recognized in the gym. Okay.
What did you feel about that?
I'll be honest, it really made me uncomfortable at first. I was like, what? Somebody walked up and he's like, are you Olivia? And I'm just like, but I didn't know where to look. I was like, yes, I am. And he's like, oh, nice. Are you taking clients? And I was flattered, but it was really awkward. I got real red in the face. I'm like, oh, I have no makeup on. I'm in my gym stuff, so it just threw me in this weird headspace. And then we figured it out and we laughed about it. But yeah, I didn't know that I was going to end up feeling all awkward and funny and embarrassed. And I did. So just being honest about how I've felt over the years can maybe help whoever's watching this that is considering these questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that it also depends on the woman, right? Because I've heard porn stars saying that they get the thrill of imagining that after they shoot a scene, for example, they will be watched by other people, particularly men, and they like getting recognized on the street, and they like fans approaching them and so on and so forth. So I guess it depends a little bit on their personality traits, and some of them maybe are a little bit more on the exhibitionist end of the spectrum, and so they like that a little bit more, right?
Yeah. Whereas because I'll do extroverted things, but I think I truly am an introvert, based on where I tend to go. Because it's funny, because OnlyFans was so weird to me. I've always enjoyed discreet escorting, where everything's just undercover. We're meeting, we're having our private time, nobody knows nothing. And then all of a sudden I'm exploiting myself on OnlyFans, and it felt so weird. And I just like, oh my God. And I put it out there, and oh God, I don't know who's looking at this, but knock on wood, I hope this goes well. And then, a month later, I'll get booked for this, and this client will be very attractive, like, a fitness orientated client. And I'll be like, my goodness, how did you know about me? And he'll mention, oh, I like your OnlyFans. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's watching, and then I kind of get a little bashful and giggly, and oh my gosh, this guy's been watching me, because you don't know who's watching you. So it's kind of a giddy thing, though. It's like, it makes me laugh.
Yeah, but I mean, let me take advantage of the fact that you mentioned exploiting yourself. I guess that's the word you use there, on OnlyFans, to get into some of the ideas or the common assumptions and perhaps some misconceptions that people have about porn actresses and actors and sex work more generally. I mean, do you think sex work is always necessarily exploitative? Because that's one of the arguments I've heard from sex negative feminists.
Well, I mean, we're choosing to do it. I mean, we're choosing, and somebody, I mean, you could say, I mean, I'm making the joke, I'm choosing to exploit myself. But, and then others would say maybe that it's more like, to them, it's like artistic expression. It's artistic sexual expression. So you could argue either point, but I mean, exploitative would be more like, I mean, I'm cracking a joke. That would be like people doing stuff against their will. People think doing things not because they're really there to run their own business, and assert themselves sexually the way they want to assert themselves. They're being coerced, or they're, and there is some of that in the industry too. We don't like that. Nobody likes that. There's goods and bads in every industry. So that's why a lot of police officers, they don't mind the way Nevada's running their sex industry in the controlled fashion that they are. And they don't really have problems with the brothels or these legitimate establishments. And they don't have many problems with legitimate escorts that go and buy licenses and run their business on their own. It always leads to a dude. It's these asshole pimps, these bad human traffickers, guys that want to get a hold of people and take advantage of the weak.
Yeah, that's the kind of idea I have about sex work. I mean, the only thing that can bother me is if people do not have a choice when doing it, if they get into it just because they are financially destitute or because they have a pimp or someone who takes advantage of them. Because otherwise, I mean, if they're doing that out of their own free will, free choice, that's perfectly fine with me. What do you think about that?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, the girls that that some of my colleagues over the years that I've been friends with for years, we run everything just like a legit business. We have escorts, we have accountants, we have marketing folks, and we're all doing things that is what is comfortable for us. So we're all running different, we're presenting and marketing ourselves differently. So like one of my girlfriends, she won't do porn on film. She wants to do more of a girlfriend experience. That's what she's trying to relay when she does her beautiful pictures. So she has some, she's got maybe in a thong, or she's got, some boobs going on, but she's not fully naked in her stuff or what have you. That's her choice. That's what she's comfortable doing. Whereas I went ahead and decided to jump on in and do some hardcore stuff, which people were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do that, Olivia. We didn't know that about you, because before I was running more of the GFE, just being, pictures like in something like this. And that was a choice that I decided to do. I decided to switch it up. But these are all consensual decisions that grown adults are making.
It's very interesting. I don't know what idea you have about people who are against sex work. I mean, you've already debated Candace Owens, and I imagine you've had other conversations with people who are against it. But I've had conversations on the show with psychologists, for example, even political scientists. I mean, believe it or not, we can also and learn more about people's attitudes towards sexuality through political science. And I mean, the thing is that most people who are against sex work, against pornography, and those kind of things, they tend to have specific kinds of traits. So, I mean, politically, they tend to be more conservative, of course. And then, for example, they tend to prefer monogamic relationships. And so, I mean, they don't really like the idea of people out there having access to sex workers or having lots of casual sex, because they get that as a threat, particularly women, because then they think that those women, the sex workers or the porn stars, are actual competition, and so they might lose their husband or their partner or someone like that. And then they also tend to be low on sociosexuality. That is, they tend to not really like having sex with people with whom they don't have some form of emotional connection, and they usually have a very low number of lifetime sexual partners. They don't like to have sex with lots of people, and they score low on, or they score high on sexual disgust. That is, they don't really like to. They don't like promiscuity. Let's use that kind of term. So, I mean, is that the kind of picture you've seen from people you've had debates and discussed with about sex work or not? What is your take on that?
There's a lot of people over the board on a lot of things. So there's this really buffed up military guy that I see. He's an alpha male. He's a client. He likes to book me from time to time, and we just have a ball. He doesn't watch porn. He's like, he goes, all alpha males know that watching porn kills your productivity. So I don't get down with porn, but I'm going to book you once in a while and have a good time in person. So that's an example, interestingly enough, of an alpha male that's saying, I'm not down for porn, but here I am in the industry and I like to book you. I want this in-person situation. I've met a ton of women who have a low sex drive. That's why they have a negative perception. They think we're stupid. And that's an interesting thing. Here's one that's fascinating in terms of like perceptions and misperceptions, if you will. There was a guy that was booking me and in town. He's booking me.
Yeah.
And he's a client. And there's a girl in town who is married and she's stuck in an unhappy marriage and she's conservative. Well, she meets him and they start having an affair, and they're telling, I love you. And the guy that she's married to isn't being very nice to her. And she finds out about me, and she was saying, oh, well, yeah, but girls in those industries, she's just really dumb. She's dumb. And what's funny is, because through the gossip, the chains of gossip, what have you, it's come full circle where this guy that I made a client, he's not going to hurt me. He's not going to come play me. He's not going to lie to me. He was lying to her and broke her heart, and she's stuck in this abusive relationship, but I'm the dumb one. And it was just kind of funny because the person who was talking with her, who then confided in me, this is all through the gym, by the way, he thought it was interesting how her assumption, being this married lady in a more conservative situation, yeah, she's starting to have an emotional affair because she's not happy, but her perception of me is, well, she's dumb. She's dumb. That's why she's in that industry. Where meanwhile, I'm looking at her situation like, you're dumb because, you're stuck with this guy that's not treating you right. I'd never allow that. This other cat he's a total player. I'd never let him just have sex with me for free and tell me he loves me because he's lying. It's totally up to, the eye of the beholder is very fascinating. I get a lot of different stuff. And then I'll get really supportive females that they're just cool and supportive just in general. And they'll just do a shout out and, hey, I just want you to know, it's cool what you're doing, keep up the good work, or they'll say something refreshing about, sex or something. So,
I also want to give you a little bit more ammunition if you ever have another debate with a conservative like Candace Owens or some other person, because there's actually many studies out there to debunk many of the claims they make. So, for example, there's that idea that porn stars, the study I'm going to mention was done specifically with porn stars, not with other kinds of sex workers, but there's that idea that porn stars are damaged goods, particularly the girls, and they did a study back, I think, in 2012 with 177 female porn stars, and they compared them to a similar number of women from the general population. And actually, one very interesting thing they found was that porn stars scored higher in terms of sexual satisfaction, self-esteem, social support, and even spirituality. So, there's a very interesting data point.
It's very interesting. Yeah. I've heard too, but I'm not sure that, this could be some of it, but I meet a lot of people from different backgrounds in the industry. So I'm not drawing any conclusions, but people that are really super hypersexual, maybe have had prior trauma. So trauma can lead, they were saying like military people can sometimes deal with a lot of promiscuity. People in fight or flight type situation jobs where they nearly lose their life half the time. And then they just kind of like, it's all or nothing. So then they want to keep having these experiences because these sexual experiences, it's like they've correlated it to like a rush of cocaine, but it's a natural rush of happy, awesome feelings. So people have argued that hypersexuality can be linked to potentially unresolved post-trauma. So that might be, but that would be affecting everybody all around. But I know women in the industry that they'll laugh and they'll say, I was never molested. My parents were in a really good relationship. I went and I got a master's degree. I went and became a scientist. I know a girl that went into biology, but she was like, I like the money that I'm making doing this, and I'm able to maintain the type of lifestyle that I want to be happy on the daily.
Yeah.
she wasn't happy with that much.
Yeah, and the other thing, look, there's actually a very interesting book that got published early this year called The Sexual Evolution by Nathan Lentz. Nathan Lentz is an evolutionary biologist, and at a certain point in the book, he talks about transactional sex, and there's actually also transactional sex in other animal species. So, for example, penguins, the males might trade rocks for nest building for sex. Chimpanzees might trade meat from small animals for sex. And actually, there's very interesting experiments where if you teach chimpanzees to use money, one of the first things they use the money for is to have sex with the female. So, it's not only a human thing. It's the only thing is that we as humans tend to moralize sex, and other animals don't do that. So
yeah, that is funny, for sure. And I'm so big on acts of service. I love acts of service, but I'm good to you back. And the regulars, we call them regulars in the industry. I have people that I've seen for years, and there's no drama in our relationship. It's very, I'm going to take care of you. You're going to take care of me. What are we going to do today? Okay. What do you want me to dress like? You want me to bring something real fun? Let's have some fun and let's catch up. And we took care of each other. Case closed, no problems, no dramas. So yeah, to each their own.
Yeah, by the way, tell us a little bit more about that. I'm interested. What kinds of relationships do you have with your clients? Because I've read, for example, and I've interviewed actually last year a former general attorney from California, Gerald Mosley, and he wrote a book because he was interested in researching sex work, and he wrote a book titled Sex Workers and Their Clients in Their Own Words. And some of the statements he cites there, I mean, there are sex workers who said that they actually have pretty good and positive relationships with their clients and their fans. I mean, that they, for example, give them gifts, they send them nice messages, and they treat them very well. Some of them just go to them to talk. I mean, they don't even have sex. So what kinds of relationships do you develop with your clients?
Pretty meaningful ones. And they get kind of sentimental because I've been talking about retiring, and then they'll say, oh, they'll want to make sure we get together, or they'll say, can I still contact you even after you make that announcement? Can I still from time to time? So these folks are getting a hold of me at the holidays, happy Thanksgiving. How are you? Merry Christmas. Are you going to have a good Christmas this year? So when that happens, when it's these holidays and we reach for the phone and, I've got to say something, I've got to make sure I mention, we do that with friends and family. So these folks consider me a friend because they're a friend, like friend and family, because they're getting a hold of me, or they'll remember my birthday. And I'm like, I can't believe they remembered my birthday. So it's ongoing relationships, with positive, healthy relationships with my clients. And we're friends basically, and we support each other. So sometimes I've had like if one was, gosh, I just got laid off, I'm having an issue here. Hey, I know so-and-so over, in your town. Let me give a call and try to set you guys up with, give you a hookup. I've helped people. Like I've gone out, on my way to help people. People have stayed in touch with me. We've been friends. My last client that came recently, we flew in from another state, and we spend a good 4 to 5 hours together, and we talk a lot. And of course, there's a lot of physical touch and love. But he's a really awesome guy, and he brought me, because I'm getting into, I have my concealed carry, so I like to shoot. I like to practice with my gun, and he brought me a really nice holster. He's ex-law enforcement. And so this holster was so awesome. So And to me, that was romantic. So funny. I don't want a handbag. I just want a really nice holster and take me shooting and teach me a new thing, and I'll be fine. But no, I feel blessed. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I thank God. When I did the interview with Candace Owens, I've always been born and raised a Baptist Christian. Mm-hmm. And we know now as governments are coming out and they're starting to divulge that we do have proof of alien life. So that kind of throws an interesting spin onto just perceptions and what have you. But I have gotten more, I would say, more spiritual, more religious, even if you will, since, due to just the election and what I've been seeing happening culturally, some of the stuff that I've been seeing. I pray. So I pray every day. And one of the things that I often pray, and when I'm counting my gratitudes, is I thank God for my clients. I always tell them, thank you so much. You always bring me the right people. Everybody, because we screen. I mean, I'm having to reject a lot of people, but when it's a go and it works, he always brings me the right people, the quality people, normal people that will be your friend for years to come. I value that.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. And I guess that, I'm not religious, to be honest, but I guess that Jesus, at least him, was not against sex workers, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, according to the Bible.
Yeah.
Candace Owens has a different take, but I tried to point that out. I was like, look at how many hookers are in the Bible, Candace. What did they call them? They were concubines.
Yeah.
Tried to get
and there are other things that people say. For example, people, the ones that are more right-wing conservatives, of course, tend to accuse pornography and porn stars of promoting promiscuity. I mean, which is an interesting take, because if it was like that, then pornography is doing a really bad job of promoting promiscuity. Because just recently I interviewed Justin LeMiller. He's a sexologist and a psychologist, and we talked about the most common sexual fantasies that people have, but toward the end of our conversation, we also talked about the most common number of lifetime partners that people have. And most people, the vast majority of people, have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 partners their whole life. And I mean, if you look at data from Gen Z, actually people are having less sex, and they're starting their sex lives later. There are many 20-something-year-olds who are still virgins, and lots of data pointing to the fact that there are many people that over the last year haven't had sex at all. So I mean, I don't understand where they pick that idea that we are living in a promiscuous society. I don't know where they get that from.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like the way things are going with the porn world. And what's happening is like things like the younger generations are just doing weirder stuff, like kink stuff, like throwing up on camera, and people like that and want to pay for that. What is so hot? What is good about that? That's gross. Just weird things are just going down weird rabbit holes for the shock value of it. Like I remember when anal was huge. Anal was like, oh, that's the most hardcore thing you can do in the industry is anal. And that's not the case anymore. Now it's how many dicks can you stick in your butt at one time? So some of that stuff, it's for the shock value, but I don't think it's healthy to be watching that the majority of the time. You know what a lot of guys want from me and I try to film it if I can, kissing and making out. Making out. Old-fashioned making out. And when I started watching porn, back in the day when you could just, maybe if you could get it on a channel and it's kind of fuzzy. When porn first started coming out, it was kind of fuzzy. I'm like trying to get the HBO, it's a little pixelated. It was really nice, soft porn where it was this beautiful, soft woman. And, and it's like her skin and everything. And then he's caressing her and there was way more foreplay. They're making out, they're kissing, and then it's going on. And it's just a calmer, more wholesome sexual take on sex. Right. And nowadays it's Crazy Town. Well, I'm concerned with Crazy Town. I'm concerned with what impact is Crazy Town having on people. And people aren't going out and having sex. People aren't going out and meeting. They're online. Not a good idea.
So, look, I wanted to ask you because, interestingly, there are feminists who are for sex work. I mean, for sex work, what I mean by that is that they support sex workers. And then there are feminists who are, we tend to call them sex negative feminists who are just straight out against sex work. They are against pornography, against escorting and all of that. I mean, do you identify as a feminist? And and whether or not you identify as one, what would you like feminists to know about sex work?
Well, sex is really fun. If you want to determine what gets you off. So you could think of it as, I know a lot of feminists think, yes, but this is for the man. No, what about you? Have you ever had an orgasm, my lovely lady? It actually feels pretty good. If you figure out how to give yourself one, and then if you figure out how to instruct a male on how to give you one, it can be a really fun experience. So to each their own. If you don't like sex and if sexual imagery just bothers you, that's fine, but you've got to realize that that is your issue, not everybody else's, because we are by nature sexual beings.
Yeah, right? For sure.
Like you said, across the board, you're noticing in animals are even behaving and, give and take for sexual stuff, right? We like sex. Sex is fun for most of us. For the ones that have a negative association to it, I ask you this, go figure that out. Go get a therapist and figure out why you have a negative association to it. I did work with a gal who does clinical sex therapy, and we did an Instagram reel together. I was trying to help promote her work. She's really fantastic. She grew up in a kind of upbringing where her religious beliefs, they were really making, the religious beliefs were projecting unnaturally negative stereotypings about sex, misinformation about sex. A lot of people have reached out to me who've been in some wild religious upbringings have said that. So then they have this warped sense of what is, if sex is good, they think it's awful. They have all, and they want to throw up. If, the opportunity arises, they want to throw up, and that's their reaction versus, so she wanted to go figure out what's going on in my head to where I don't even like sex. And it was her upbringing. She became a sex therapist, and she is so dang amazing. She can actually have an orgasm without even being touched, just through breathing techniques.
Whoa. That's
how anatomically amazing we are as humans in the sexual realm. You don't even have to go out and have sex with a partner. Of course, that's so much better, and it's emotionally satisfying. But like the ultimate sexual health is being able to breathe yourself into an orgasm, and that's what she can do now. From all the head work that she's done to finding out, why did I not ever like it in the first place? And a lot of it's upbringing.
No, it's very interesting that you mention religiosity, because actually there's work by people like Nicole Prozzi. She's a neuroscientist and a psychologist. I've had her twice on the show, and we talked about the idea of porn addiction. And actually what she found through her work is that people who identify as porn addicts, they don't really have an addiction. What they have is that they are usually highly religious people who morally condemn porn. And so what happens when they watch porn is that they feel a sort of moral incongruence. They feel bad about themselves. They condemn themselves morally and pornography morally. And so they have psychological issues for watching pornography, but it's only because they condemn it morally. It's not because the porn itself is harming them, you know.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, and do you think that sex work? Because I actually heard this kind of argument from some sex workers who are also feminists themselves, and they say that contrary to what many people say when they say that, for example, sex work can be or is degrading to women, they say that it is empowering. I mean, do you feel that? Do you think that sex work can be empowering?
Yeah, absolutely. I have felt very, very empowered by it. And just to kind of backtrack, like I've met some sex addicts or porn addicts that autism might have been a factor of why they're having some functional issues in general. So then they're going to porn, and then I haven't met. Well, I can see though the inverse relationship between like uber religious people being on a cycle, if you will, of like watching the porn and then feeling really guilty, feeling bad, and going back and doing it again. So any of those things, if it affects you negatively, it's not a good thing. It's just funny when feminists talk. I know so many women that are in really bad, unhealthy relationships, but they would look at a girl in the sex industry and say, oh, that poor girl. Where I know girls in the sex industry that are on their third house, that have a portfolio, that are doing things on their own terms. They go to the gym, they're kicking butt. They're way better off where they're at versus where they were if they had been back in that abusive marriage that they had come from. So, every single human experience is to their own and unique. And I just listen to everybody and try not to be too judgmental and not to typecast on any one particular issue. There are some behavior trends.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that even though I've learned about the psychology, as I told you before, the kinds of psychological traits that people who are against sex work tend to have. So I understand that they have those traits, but at the same time, I mean, it always feels really hard for me to understand how particularly adults don't or have such a hard time learning that there are people who have different lifestyles, who have different interests, and they are not necessarily bad people or immoral people, or there's not necessarily something wrong with them psychologically just because they, for example, like to have sex with different people and they, have values different from your own values. I mean, that just by itself is not something bad, right? But sometimes it's really hard for people to learn that, I guess.
Yes, definitely. I want people to be safe and I want them to be happy. And I know a lot of people that are faking their happiness so they can look all prim and proper, and they avoid any human judgment. Whereas if they wanted to just throw caution to the wind and do whatever the hell they wanted to do, whatever felt right for them, they want to avoid that kind of public, I guess, fear of just public rejection, if you will. I say do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy. So whatever that is, life is just so interesting in this world with sex and relationships. And I strongly encourage people to meet people in person and have like discussions and stuff like what we're doing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's one of the things I really learned by reading, as I mentioned before, Gerald Mosley's book, Sex Workers and Their Clients in Their Own Words. I mean, just go out and ask people what they think about what they do, right? Don't make assumptions, because many of these accusations that come from people who are against sex work is just them making assumptions about how life is for a sex worker, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. You'd be shocked. Some people would be shocked to even understand what some folks have experienced in the industry. Just to give you an example, and this kind of go like to all the women or the haters out there that just think we're stupid and whatever. I was paid $70,000 to go to Lake Tahoe for 2 days with a very nice gentleman. $70,000. It made my year. That was just one agreement that I was made. And how was I treated? Like a queen. We stayed at the Ritz. I got to go I had 5-star meals. I was allowed to go. He said, hey, do you want to go shopping? I'm not even a shopper. I'm not a shopper. I told you. I was saying, bring me a good holster and take me shooting. I'm a tomboy. And the guy's like, I like shopping. And he goes, I want to dress you up. Let's go. So there's times when I'm thinking I'm on cloud 9. I can't even believe I'm getting paid like this. I'm being treated like a princess. But not every man brings that notion. It's everybody's different on how they regard, like men regard women, right? So some men that approach me are not all nice. Some want to abuse me. You get that all fleshed out from the very get-go. If you have your system tightened in place on how to vet people and make sure that you do get good company, you're not going to have a piece of crap come through your door. You're not going to have to deal with somebody like that. They're going to show their cards well in advance. And they're not going to want to, if you're saying, I need to know where you work, I need your ID, and I'm going to have you put half down in a deposit, like that person's going to be serious. And, if you do get somebody who's not as pleasant, call up their employer. Take care of the situation. I had a man fired. I had a woman fired once for harassing me, pretending that she was a client. She works in mental health. This would surprise not one sex worker. A woman that works in mental health for a living is harassing a prostitute that she has a crush on or whatever the deal was. I found out where she worked and I got her fired. So again, that goes back to what is the woman who's walking into the sex industry made out of? Because if you walk in and you're really weak and you're used to letting people beat you up and abuse you anyhow, that's probably going to happen to you until you put your foot down. But that's going to happen to you anywhere. Okay. So I think the women in this industry that are really successful, they've been around the block, they've experienced life, and they've got their head on straight to be able to be successful and keep going. And some are just flat out just crazy, just having wild sex. I've heard wild stories about, the ones that I hear are really wild are some of the porn stars that are just crazy off the chain. And they are just going from one guy to the next, doing all these wild, having wild situations. But I would say that there's a lot of wild people off the chain in the industry, right? That are doing crazy things. So,
I mean, I guess more power to them as long as they're safe, right?
Yes.
So let me just ask you one more question, because I was just looking at the time. I don't want to take much more of your time. So what would you say then is the role that sex plays in your life?
It makes me feel, it's interesting. It makes me feel like valid. I know that it makes me feel validated. But we're getting men coming after us 24/7, always throwing themselves at us. So, but oddly enough, if I go, a week without having a date or something, I start feeling like, even though people have been giving me attention, I know I'm sexy, I want to go have a date. I want to go have an interaction, a positive, fun, sexy interaction with a guy, and get the juices flowing. So it's a need for me too. It validates me. It makes me feel good. It makes me work out. It makes me like motivated to go work out and invest the amount of time that I do into my body, and to try to be healthy. Mm-hmm. I think our sex drives, they drive us. They're drivers. They're driving us to want to go to the gym. They're driving us to want to make X amount of money. I think sex drive is huge. So use it or lose it. And, I think you'll have more fun if you use it.
Yeah, for sure. So look, thank you so much for doing this. But just before we go, where can people find you on the internet?
I am on X. So it is Olivia Bentley OB. And that's from the Bunny Ranch, but Olivia Bentley OB. You can find me on X. And then there you can find links to my OnlyFans, or you can look me up, Olivia Bentley on OnlyFans. And I have a website. People will communicate and arrange to meet me through there, Olivia-Bentley.com. Somebody stole OliviaBentley.com and tried to get me to buy it. I just decided to do for a lot of money. And I was like, thanks a lot, jerk. So it's Olivia-Bentley.com. Okay.
Great. Yeah, sure. I will be leaving at least the links to the X account and your website in the description. And look, Olivia, thank you so much for doing this. As I said, it's been very fun to talk with you.
You too. You are fantastic. It was so good to finally meet you. So have me back anytime. This was good.
Hi guys, thank you for watching this interview until the end. If you liked it, please share it, leave a like and hit the subscription button. This show is brought to you by Enlights, learning and development done differently. Check their website at enlights.com, and also please consider supporting the show on Patreon or PayPal. I would also like to give a huge thank you to my main patrons and PayPal supporters: Per Ergo Larsen, Jerry Mullerens, Frederick Sunda, Bernardo Seixas, Olaf Alex, Adam Kessel, Matthew Whittingboard, Arno Wolf, Tim Hollis, Eric Alenia, John Connors, Philip Forrest Connolly, Dan Demetri, Robert Windiger, Rui Inácio, Zup, Marco Neves, Colin Holbrook, Phil Kavanagh, Mikkel Stormir, Samuel André, Francis Ford, Tiago Nunes, Fergal Cossen, Hal Herzog, Nuno Machado, Jonathan Labyrinth, João Linhares, Stantantia, Samuel Correia, Eric Hines, Mark Smith, João Eira, Tom Hummel, Sardas France, David Sloan Wilson, Yacila Dez Araújo, Romain Roach, Diego Londonho Correia, Yannick Punter, Dana Rusmani, Charlotte Bliss, Nicole Barbaro, Adam Hunt, Pavla Stasevski, Nelek Bach, Guy Madison, Gary G. Alman, Sam Afzal, Adrian Yeager, Paul Tolentino, João Barbosa, Julian Price, Edward Hall, Edin Bronner, Douglas Fry, Franca Bortolotti, Gabriel Ponce Cortez, Ursula Litsky, Scott, Zachary Fish, Tim Duffy, Sonny Smith, John Wiseman, Daniel Friedman, William Buckner, Paul George Arnaud, Luke Loaki, Georgios Theophanos, Chris Williamson, Peter Wolozin, David Williams, Diogo Costa, Anton Erickson, Charles Murray, Alex Shaw, Maury Martinez, Coralie Chevalier, Bangalore Atheists, Larry Dealey Jr., Old Erringbon, Sterry, Michael Bailey, Dan Sperber, Robert Grassi, Igor N., Jeff McMahon, Jake Zool, Barnabas Radix, Mark Campbell, Thomas Dovner, Luke Nissen, Chris Story, Kimberly Johnson, Benjamin Galbert, Jessica Nowicki, Linda Brandon, Nicholas Carlson, Ismael Benzliman, George Coriatis, Valentin Steinman, Per Crowley, Kate Van Goller, Alexander Hubbard, Liam Dunaway, BR, Masood Ali Mohammadi, Perpendicular, Jonas Hertner, Ursula Goodenough, Gregory Hastings, David Pinsoff, Sean Nelson, Mike Lavigne, and Dios Necht. A special thanks to my producers, Isar Webb, Jim Frank, Lucas Stafiniak, Tom Vanagdam, Bernard Ugnik, Curtis Dixon, Benedict Mueller, Thomas Trumbull, Catherine and Patrick Tobin, John Carlo Montenegro, Alnick Ortiz, and Nick Golden, and to my executive producers, Matthew Lavender, Sergio Quadriano, Bogdan Kanivets, and Rosie. Thank you for all.